With the sudden cost of living increases, it's making it harder than ever to make ends meet. When you've cut costs as much as possible, you may need to increase your income to balance the family budget. That doesn't necessarily mean evenings spent stacking shelves at your local supermarket, like I did. Is there a side hustle you can monetize to make some extra cash? To find out where to begin, I'm joined by e-commerce coach Paul Waddy. Paul, you do a side hustle newsletter, you've got a side hustle course. How do you get started in a side hustle?
Thanks, Koshi. The 4 phases that I think people go through is the product research phase, or the idea. So do I have an idea? Is it decent? How do I validate it? The next stage is moving on to business planning. How much money do I need? Do I have a budget? What is a budget? The next phase is what I would call the hype phase. I'm really doing this. Family and friends, everybody, I'm about to launch. And then the 4th phase, I've launched. What now? What I call the scale phase.
Okay, do you need to come up with something new? Or can you get on a bandwagon? Or is it as easy as just driving an Uber? There are so many different ways.
My wife always says, when I suggest, why don't you do an online business? She said, all the good ideas are taken. And I stop her there and I say, you don't need a new idea, you just need a better idea. So you can take an old idea and put a modern solution on it. Take the example of Australian fashion brand Zimmerman that was recently valued at over $1 billion. They started as a side hustle. They started at the markets there in Paddington, and they certainly didn't invent women's fashion. In fact, that's the most crowded part of the market, really, the retail market. But what they did was found a way to make it different. So they took swimwear, fused it with fashion, and were one of the very first to create this resort wear. So that's just an example of how starting a little side hustle, putting a twist on it, you don't have to build a rocket ship that takes people to the moon. Maybe you just focus on something that improves people's lives a small way each day.
Does it cost a lot to start a side hustle?
Well, it depends. From my experience, I've got people that come in and say, I want to make $50,000 a month from month 1. And I say, well, you probably need $200,000 to start that business. Or I've got other people who say, look, I've got an idea to create a little jewelry brand. I'd be happy with $5,000 a month. And they could probably do that with $3,000 or $4,000. So there's a model for all budgets and all sizes.
Some great ideas to get us started. Thanks very much, Paul.
Pleasure.
Good to see you.
Thanks.